Hello, everybody. It's me, Shannon LaBruyere. I am live and loving it tonight. Welcome to Sunday Night Live, where we are going to explore the principles that equip us and empower us to thrive in change. And I'm talking about change of all kinds. Tonight, especially, we are going to be talking about the changes that we would like to initiate and please forgive the earthquake that is my video display. I don't know if you can see little Zippy over here, but she's marching all across my table here like it's her own center stage. So, oh, and now she's going to try and knock off the pens. You're going to have to go, lady. All right. With that, I want to welcome you. And tonight, our topic is called "Tis the Season for Guilting." And our Thrive principle is hashtag bring the honor. Hashtag bring the honor. When we are talking about guilt, getting it or giving it, our superpower is going to be remembering who we are, remembering that we are people of honor who respect ourselves and respect others. And that is a powerful, powerful tool when we are dealing with things like the emotions of guilt. So, we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we move on. And I want to invite you this Christmas season to give the gift of the most delicious coffee the recipient will have ever drank. I should look that up. Yes, it is the best. Whatever, however we say it grammatically, Thumb Roast coffee is my favorite. I love Blue Lake. Just saying, if you want to give somebody something that they will appreciate, that will up level their coffee drinking experience, go to thumbroastcoffee.com. Enter in the coupon code THRIVE after you filled your cart with delicious, wonderful, thoughtful gifts, and you're going to get 15% off. Don't worry. They will love it. If they drink coffee, they will love Thumb Roast coffee. I promise. It's delicious. All right. With that, let's go to our hellos. If you just jumped on, oops, I got to get rid of that. Yay. If you are just now jumping on, if you have never been live on a Sunday Night Live, or maybe you've never shown your face or made a comment, tonight's your night. I invite you, jump in. Hi, Carol. I'm glad you're here. Jump in, leave a comment, give StreamYard permission to use your Facebook name and your Facebook photo. That way we'll know who you are. I'd love to hear from you. I love to know where you're watching from. It's wonderful to know that across the world, really, people are tuning into Sunday Night Live and equipping themselves to adjust to change and navigate change better. It makes the world a better place. So, wherever you're at, light your world and let us know where you're from. That'd be awesome. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody in the United States. We just celebrated our yearly turkey dinner, stuffing, mashed potatoes, carb overload, most of us. I have a friend who's a vegetarian, and she has a whole nother set of Thanksgiving flavors that involve squash and fruits and vegetables. It's pretty cool. However you indulged here in the United States, I hope you're feeling it now in a good way. And if not, tomorrow's a new day, right? If we overate, overstuffed, we get to start fresh tomorrow. And let's not feel guilty about it. As we segue right into what we're talking about tonight. So the gift that keeps on giving is a lot of times guilt. I know I experienced this past week all manner of guilt. I was on the guilt roller coaster. So, first, I felt guilty because I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't doing enough to decorate the house. I wasn't doing enough to make enough varieties of foods for the dinner that we were going to have for our family. Um, the list went on and on. I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't doing enough. I was doing too much. You guys, I was doing way too much. I had too much going on. I was making too much food. There was too much variety. I was kind of going overboard on the decorating. I mean, that pendulum started swinging, and you know how pendulums go, right? As good as I was feeling, as bad as I was feeling. This is the thing. I wasn't going to win no matter what. When I'm doing that guilt thing, nothing I do is enough. Have you been there? Hi, Kelly. I'm glad you jumped on. Have you been there? Have you been there where one minute you're feeling like you've not done enough, and then moments later, you've done too much? We get in this cycle, if you will, that we can't win, and we feel bad. We beat ourselves up. Too many decorations. And then I look and go, oh my gosh, that's over the top. Way too many decorations. I've got to be with people, right? I am not being with people enough. And then the pendulum swings and I'm feeling guilty because I'm sick of people. The extremes. And we feel guilty. It seems often no matter what we do. So I'm here to give you permission to quit guilting yourself. First and foremost, quit guilting yourself. You can stop. It's not always easy. It doesn't mean it will never start back. But I want you to know that when you recognize that you are guilting yourself in a can't win, and it's not about moral issues, you've not committed any crimes. When you see that happening, stop yourself in your tracks and remind yourself that however you're doing it, it's going to be okay. It's going to be good. When you're doing it with the right reason, when you're doing it aligned with what you know is important, it makes it a lot easier to say no to that guilt. When we make changes to anything, we can feel guilty. So, year before last, this would have been the Christmas before the pandemic. We had a big, huge Christmas tree at my house. It's 12 feet tall. It's gigantic. You guys, it is huge. It's just huge. And and it was so fun. And I enjoyed it so much. And it was great. And we loved it. And then last year was the Christmas right in the middle of the pandemic. It was the COVID Christmas. And I didn't feel like putting up that big tree. I just didn't feel like it. And we had just a few immediate family members over for the holiday. And I started feeling guilty that I didn't put up that big, gigantic tree. I'd only put up a 6-footer with some pretty ornaments on it. Guilt, 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 guilt. Nobody said a thing about it. Nobody complained. Nobody cried. It was all me guilting myself for having made a change. You guys, change can make you feel guilty when you've chosen to do something differently. Guilt tries to rush in. And I want you to know it's okay to make a change. Just because you did it that way last year doesn't mean that you're terrible for doing it differently this year. I can already hear what you're saying. I can read your minds. You're thinking to yourself, well, yeah, if I just did it 1 year, it's not a big deal. But what if I did it 20 years? And then I want to do something different. What if you do? What if you do? Are you committing a crime? I hope not. Are you doing something that violates your principles or your values? If you're not, you can make a change and you don't have to feel guilty about it. I'm going to say that again. You can make a change and not feel guilty about it. And here's why. Because you are not responsible for maintaining everybody else's memory book. I hear the screams. I hear the screams. But it's true. It's true. If maintaining the weight of other people's expectations is not bringing you joy, if it's not serving you well anymore, guess what? It's time for them to start stepping in. Our no becomes their yes. It is okay to make a change, even if others have fond memories of the way we used to do it. It's okay. You do not have to guilt yourself for making a change that you know is healthy, is helpful, is freeing, allows you to rest, allows you to have more peace. Fill in the blank, the benefit. If there's a benefit to the change that you're making and you're feeling guilty because you're going to disappoint somebody else's memory, I want you to know they will fill in that blank. They will fill in that blank. The pain of it is in the anticipation. Oh, it won't be the same. Well, it won't be the same, but there might be the same people there, right? I'm talking about, so let me be clear. I'm not talking about when you've experienced a loss. That's a different thing. You've lost your job, you've lost your home. Your those kinds of the grief that comes to us when we've had unwanted change. That's not what I'm focusing on here. I'm focusing on the changes that you choose to make and then beat yourself up over them. Like me, beating myself up for not pulling out all the stops and putting up this gigantic Christmas tree because there weren't going to be a whole lot of people to enjoy it with me. And I didn't want to enjoy it by myself. And I guilted myself about that for about this long. And then I realized, Shannon, you get to celebrate this any way you want. My husband and I got to choose. We chose well and we let it go. You can choose to make a change and not feel guilty about it. Amen. Amen. All right, let's see. You've got some comments here. Carol can relate. Absolutely, she says. And Kelly says this: I have always taken on way too much at Christmas and felt guilty if I did get it all done. If I didn't get it all done. Last year, I took all that extra stuff off my plate and actually enjoyed the season, and no one noticed. Right? No one noticed the secret pressure that you were putting on yourself, the guilt. They didn't notice when you didn't do those things. We're usually part of a bigger fabric during the holidays. We're connected with others, maybe people that we don't see but once or twice a year. There is a fabric there, a fabric of family, a fabric of friendship, a fabric of memories. But that fabric can be flexible. When it becomes rigid and crisp, it breaks. It gets holes in it. But if you keep that fabric flexible, able to change, able to, like you said, Kelly, took all that extra stuff off your plate and allowed yourself to be flexible with the people that were part of your family, part of your friend circle, the people that you wanted to make sure you connected with during the holidays. When you do that, you can do it and you can give yourself permission to not feel guilty. Hi, Francine. I'm glad to see you here. Hello, hello. So we are talking about 'tis the season for guilting. We spend a lot of time guilting ourselves over the changes that we choose to make over the holidays. We're doing too much or we're doing too little. It was so funny. I was on social media, as we are now, and social media can really feed guilt. Anybody else? Yes. We're not in charge of our social media, it will be in charge of us. And if we are not in charge of the messages we allow ourselves to ingest, those messages will change the way we think and feel. So we have to be careful when we're dealing with social media, especially during the holidays, because how many of you know nobody's showing you the whole picture? They're showing you the little glimpses. That's all that fits in that frame, but there's a lot they're not showing. We beat ourselves up for what we assume is behind the scenes looking perfect, when in fact, the things that we are seeing are exactly that, little snapshots of joy that somebody's choosing to share with us. They may not be showing us the whole picture. We can't compare our story to theirs and feel guilty because it doesn't measure up. The comparison game does not work. All right. I saw this thing on Facebook and it made me laugh out loud because on one hand, there were a bunch of posts talking about how there's a lack of fill in the blank. There's a lack of gifts. There's a lack of food. There's just not enough in the stores. People were going on and on. And then the flip side, everybody's too greedy this time of year. They're buying too much. I'm here to tell you, you get to decide what works for you, what works for your family. You don't have to feel guilty because somebody thinks you're spending too much or somebody thinks you're spending too little. Sometimes we just need to hear it. Sometimes we just need to hear that and know it's okay. It's okay. Do not guilt yourself for the changes that you intentionally make to make this season more pleasurable, more peaceful, more restful. You might have to spend less than you did last year on Christmas. You might decide you get to spend more. If you're not careful, any change that you make will trigger guilt. Just be aware of it. No, you don't have to feel guilty for intentional changes that you make that align with your values and contribute to your overall hashtag bring the honor as a person. Yay! All right, the next thing is this. Lesson 1, when we make changes, we can feel guilty. When we're the ones in charge of the changes, other people didn't like them. We feel guilty because we made the change. We sometimes feel guilty because they really don't like it. Kelly talks about nobody noticed all the extra stuff that she didn't do. Well, I'm here to tell you, there may be somebody in your circle, your holiday circle, that notices everything you don't do. And when we make changes, other people often try to make us feel guilty because we're not doing it the way they want. We're not doing it for them. Anybody else experience this? Have you tried to wade through a holiday season with the expectations of everybody else pressing you down? Because if you took one little piece of that load off, somebody, a parent, a sibling, a son or a daughter, a friend, a boss, was right there to remind you how important it is, how nobody will ever be the same if you don't do it. That isn't true. It's not true. People will be the same. They will be the same. You will be amazed at how they rebound when you make a change. They can try to make you feel guilty, but I want you to think about it like this. We're talking about gifting now. We're talking about gifting. I want you to picture somebody walking up with a giant bag of trash. Think about your Thanksgiving dinner trash, right? We generated so much trash. There's so many leftover plates and just stuff that we threw out. This big bag of trash. And they walk up to you and say, "Merry Christmas," and hand you a bag of garbage. Are you going to take that? Do not take it. When somebody comes up to you with that garbage bag full of guilt and shame that you aren't enough, that you're not doing enough, that you haven't done enough, that you aren't being enough, that it's your job to make everybody happy and to maintain everybody's memory bank, when they try to hand you that bag of garbage, you can say, "No, no, I do not accept that gift." This is the beautiful thing about gifts, including the gift of guilt. Just because somebody's trying to give it to you doesn't mean you have to accept it. You don't have to accept it. There are people who don't invest anything in trying to make any experience better. All they want to do is make you feel like you're not doing enough for them. Just say no. Sarah says this, "I struggle with, do I still invite toxic family to my house or not? I feel guilty when I don't. I can't win. They won't show up if I invite them, and I don't, and if I don't, then they say I don't care." Sarah, that is a common dilemma. The family that you invite and then they don't show up, which is hurtful, right? Rejection feels terrible, but if you don't invite them, they say that you don't care. And this is where bring the honor is so powerful. Just because they can't feel that you care doesn't mean that you don't. And that's not always your fault. That's not always your fault. And when we make a change to distance ourselves from toxic people, that doesn't mean that we don't love them, doesn't mean that we never want to see them. Sometimes it means we just show up and zip our lip. But you have to make the decision, Sarah and Shannon, and everybody else who's watching. You have to make that decision, not based on what they think, but based on who you know you are. Are you acting in love? Whether they can receive it that way or not, are you acting in love? And sometimes we love people more sincerely and in a more genuine way from a distance. And that shows up during the holidays sometimes. But however you decide to pursue it, when you are acting with honor in alignment with your values, you don't have to feel guilty for doing it, even if somebody else is unhappy. What is the cost to the people that you are in charge of? And that's another question we can ask ourselves when we're talking about guilt. If a family member's guilting me into inviting them to something and they make chaos of it because they either don't show up or when they do, they, create drama. We're not responsible for those adult people. We can't control what they do, but we are responsible for the people in our household. And what is that doing to them? When we make sure we're centered in our decision making, that we're acting in love and that we're honoring people and we're enforcing appropriate boundaries, even if they don't like it, you don't have to feel guilty about it. Just say no. Just say no. Carol says it's really true. At the holidays, we can get so caught up into how other people are feeling that we forget how we feel. All right. Lesson 1, when we make changes, sometimes we just beat ourselves up and there's no need for it. Like Kelly said, she dropped a whole lot of things off of her must-do list, and it turned out nobody cared. She gave herself permission to do it. She did it, and she was better for it. It's a beautiful thing. Lesson number 2, when we make changes, sometimes other people want to hand us that big bag of guilt. No, I just say no. No. Your bad behavior, your poor choices, your disrespect of my hospitality, I've decided to put a boundary up that says you're not going to abuse those things anymore. And I love you from over here. And you do not have to feel guilty about that. Is it regrettable? Often it is. Am I saying you'll have no emotions associated with saying no to the guilt that somebody's trying to hand you? You will have emotions that go along with that. You may be sad. Your feelings may be hurt. But you do not have to feel guilty for enforcing an appropriate boundary that is aligned with your values. You can say no to the guilt. Doesn't mean there won't be regrettable consequences sometimes when people are angry or sad, but that's them. That's them. And they could choose to behave differently or choose differently. That's tough, but it's true. And it becomes easier when you exercise it. It also becomes easier when you don't have to be angry to enforce your boundary. Sometimes we feel guilty because we've went off at the mouth, right? We've been yelling. We've been acting angry and being hurtful in when we're saying no. And that's why it's so important to be intentional about what we're choosing and why we're choosing it and making sure it's aligned with who we know we are. Because then we can say no without being mad, without having to be angry. We can just say, that doesn't work for me, and move on. You can do it. I know you can. Kelly says this: members of my immediate family are very toxic right now. I'm not having a big Christmas. I'm just spending Christmas Day with my son and daughter-in-law, and I don't feel guilty about it. You can put some distance in. Doesn't mean that you don't love somebody, but you can make adjustments based on the circumstances, and you don't have to feel guilty. I love it. Francine says, I like that. Say no and set boundaries. Love from a distance, better than creating drama, hate, and regret. Yes. If something's on fire, the best thing you can do is take a few steps back, right? You're not if you don't have a fire hose, you got to step away, right? I'm glad that's helpful to you, Francine. It's good to have you here. Where are you from? I'd love to know. Sarah says this: sometimes less is more. I think there might be a bit of grief in the changes. Oh, Sarah, you hit something powerful there. That is absolutely true. Yes, there is a bit of grief in the changes, but as we move through that, oops, something's, oh my goodness. I don't want that to happen. Oh my, I really need that to go away. Well, you guys, Microsoft has just decided to give me a news feed that's blocking your glorious comments. I don't know how to make it go away. Let's see that. Can't I make that go away? Anybody have a clue? Bingo. All right. So, Sarah, that bit of grief is important to acknowledge. You don't have to ignore that sense of loss, that things weren't as wonderful as you wanted them to be, or that they couldn't be. It's absolutely true. We do need to acknowledge that grief. But when you're in that process and get to the other side, there is a sigh of relief. There is really, really some health and peace that happens from that. Francine is from Grand Blanc, Michigan. I'm an honorary Granger with Rachel and Laura. Yay! Oh, that's nice, Francine. I'm so glad you're here. Awesome. And thank you, Rachel and Laura, for letting Francine know about Sunday Night Live. All right. So when we make changes, we can feel guilty. We can give ourselves permission to not. When we make changes, others want to hand us a giant pile of guilt. We can say, no, I am not taking that. It's legit. And then here's the last thing as we're rounding the curve, you guys. We can't play the guilt game either. Oh, I know. Ouch, right? We can't play the guilt game either. When we are giving ourselves permission to set the appropriate boundaries in alignment with what we know is good and will be helpful. When we do that during the holidays, we also have to go by the same rule that we want other people to go by. It can be tempting to try and guilt somebody into doing what we want them to do. It can be an easy technique to fall back on to make somebody feel guilty for them making the change that they know they have to make. I know, right? I know. Because I try it sometimes and then I try to catch myself. I don't always, I'm sure. When our children, when our parents, when our loved ones, when the people that are in our circle are not making the decision we want, they're going to be the only ones not at the caroling party. Come on, you're going to be the only ones not there. How's that going to make you feel if you're not there? We're expecting you. Everybody else is there. Guilting them. Bring the honor means we trust that people can make decisions that are good for them, that don't necessarily match what I think is good for them. And they get to experience the consequences. We don't know everybody's story. When we start guilting somebody to push themselves too hard, to be at the party because we know that everybody else will be there, to host the dinner because somebody has to do it and they have the biggest house. When we resort to guilting people, we're handing them the big giant bag of guilt. It's not the kind of gifting we want to do. Choose to give people freedom to choose according to their values, according to their intents, according to what they need and what their family needs. You can tell somebody, I will miss you. And that's a sincere sentiment. You can also tell somebody, I can't believe you're not going to be there. And now you've just tried to lay a huge gift of guilt on them. You can express regret. You can tell them you're sorry. You can share so many of those emotions that happen when we are disappointed, when we're not getting our way. But I am here to tell you that if you intentionally choose not to use guilt as a tool, you free up their ability to choose you, to choose that event, to choose to do it, not out of guilt, but out of love. Right? And isn't that what we want people to do in our lives every day? Be with us because they love us, and know that if they're not with us, it's because they can't be, for a reason that we may or may not know. Bring the honor as such a powerful, powerful perspective during the holidays to deal with guilt, the guilt that we're putting on ourselves, the guilt that other people try to hand us, and the guilt that we try to put on other people. Carol says, oh, yes, let's see. Carol says, I found that if you plan well when company is at your house, the time and conversation is more controlled. Playing Jeopardy or another game that involves all on a certain topic helped make our days fun. Yeah, just cutting somebody out of the party doesn't always have to be the only solution, right? Getting creative with how can I make changes so that this gathering doesn't turn into that toxic drama, something off of daytime TV. Like Carol said, you can plan well and try and keep it kind of like bumper bowling. The ball's going to be going like this down the alley, but it'll bounce a little, it'll stay between the lines. Setting good parameters of when an event ends and when it starts, right? So that people are going to leave before they have a chance for everybody to, put their dukes up or whatever it is that happens. Planning can be a big help. That helps us to manage things that maybe we don't have to go nuclear on. Maybe we don't have to totally say, that's never happening. We could pull back just a little. Recently, my sister had a party on Halloween, a Halloween party, costume party for the kids to come, and they played games, and it was wonderful. It was so fun. And I got there a little while after it started, and I left about an hour before it ended. I didn't feel well. I was tired. I needed to rest. But I went, and I was allowed to leave. Nobody made me feel guilty. What a glorious thing. What a glorious thing. Sarah says this, I grew up being guilted into a lot. This makes so much sense. Yes, yes. Sometimes we've only seen guilt. The only tool we've seen used to get our way is guilt. Sometimes that's what our whole family's done. That's what everybody in our circle has done. We get to choose differently. All right. Carol says this, simplifying the food, as you said, helps too. And having others bring something, paper plates, so many things we can do prior to enjoy a great day. And using paper plates, I felt guilty about that for a hot minute. Got beautiful Thanksgiving paper plates. Our dishwasher is broken and we've been waiting for 4 months for the replacement part. We have 2 months to go. So soon and very soon. Felt a little bad about that. And then quit guilting myself. I want to be able to enjoy time with people. We don't want to spend all of our time having to clean up stuff. It was a wonderful, wonderful thing. And Carol, you are so right. It simplifies things, giving yourself permission to make changes that simplify things, that allow you to do the thing that matters the most. The thing that matters the most. You decide what that thing is. For me, it's being able to have sincere, genuine conversations with the people I love. And if I can use some paper plates and some plastic forks and make it more likely that I'm going to be able to do that, I've given myself permission to do it. And you can give yourself permission to make the changes you need to make in alignment with what you know you value, and put up the boundaries that say, nope, I'm not taking the guilt. It's regrettable that you feel that way. You guys, this is the gift that keeps on giving. For real, this phrase, that's regrettable. Regrettably, I cannot. Regrettably, it's regrettable. Use that term. It's regrettable that you feel that way. And then inside you're saying, nevertheless, this is how it will be. You guys, you can do it. This is going to be a beautiful Christmas season. It is going to be a beautiful holiday season because you are going to exercise your anti-guilt muscles, and you aren't going to use guilt as a tool. Mary, I'm glad you're here, and thanks for chiming in that you got to pop on at that here at the tail end. I'm glad you're here. And with that, you guys, mwah, I love you. I wish you all the best. This is going to be a fantastic week. Practice not beating yourself up. Practice not letting other people beat you up. And practice not beating them up. Gosh, that sounds so good, doesn't it? Carol says this was very eye-opening for me. Thank you for sharing. Love not only Sunday Night Live, but our classes on Saturday morning. Join us, she says. Yes, ask Shannon how to be with us on Saturday. You will love it. Yes, you are welcome to reach out anytime, and I can talk with you about what Livestream Leadership is, what we do. And Carol, I'm glad you brought that up. For those of you who have been curious about Livestream Leadership but haven't tried it, haven't jumped in, I want you to put just a little note on your calendar. I'm going to say it's January 29th. Let me make sure of the date, but I'm going to have a wonderful, yes, on January 29th, we're going to have a friend day for Livestream Leadership. And so if you've been curious about it, wonder what all of the buzz is about, mark Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern time on your calendar, January 29th. We are going to do a wonderful mastermind around the topic of dealing with difficult people. So looking forward to that. Thank you. And Kelly sums it up great. Spending time together is the most important thing. I couldn't have said it better myself. Mwah. Goodbye. Take care and God bless.